Good afternoon to all. I welcome all the participants. We have with us all the taxpayers, chartered accountants, members of organizations such as FICCI, ASSOCHAM, FKCCI, and Chamber of Commerce and Industry of other states as well. So good afternoon to everybody. We also have with us Dr. B.V. Muralikrishna. He is Additional Commissioner of E-Governance, Karnataka. We have with us Shri P.V. Bhatt, State Informatics Officer, NIC, Karnataka. So, as you know, on 5th of June, we had conducted a webinar on the e-invoicing system, where we had presented the highlights of the e-invoice system to all the taxpayers whose turnover is between 5 crores to 10 crores. So this was very much welcomed by all the participants, and now as we understand that you may be having some more doubts or clarifications on this e-invoice system. So to understand or answer the clarifications or your questions, we are conducting this session. This is a question and answer session on e-invoicing. So you can put forth your questions in the chat box and we will be taking up these questions. So we'll begin this session. My colleague, Mr. Suresh Meti, Senior Director, he will start the session with all the most frequently asked questions by the taxpayers or the chartered accountants. And we will take down a note of your questions and we'll keep answering the questions as well. And also we'll take up or discuss these questions at the end of the session. We have with us, as you said, as I said, GST experts who will be answering all to your questions. So thank you, and over to you, Mr. Suresh.
Thank you very much, madam. Very good afternoon to all the participants. So this is a session basically answering the questions. Initially, we'll be running through some of the questions which have been already asked by so many taxpayers. As you are aware, e-invoicing has been started on October 1st, 2020 for taxpayers having turnover more than 500 crore. Subsequently, government has been reducing the threshold. And now, as you are all aware, the taxpayers with turnover more than 5 crore are supposed to register their invoices from 1st August 2023. So whatever questions we had already come across, we are trying to cover up all those questions here. Most of these questions will answer the questions that you have in your mind. So other than these questions, if you have anything else, you can put in the WebEx chat box and we will be taking up those questions after this set of frequently asked questions are covered. So first thing is, what is invoicing? E-Invoicing is nothing but registering your invoices on the invoice registration portal. So NIC has been the first IRP, and subsequently, recently, some more IRPs also have come into place. So you will be preparing the invoices as you have been preparing earlier, maybe manually or using your financial accounting system or ERP, whatever procedure you have been having earlier. So once you have generated the invoice on your system, you will be uploading this onto the IRP and registering it. So once you have registered your invoices on the portal, you will be getting a unique number called as invoice registration number, IRN. And along with that, you will be getting this digitally signed invoice. So whatever invoice details you have uploaded to the portal, the same thing is digitally signed and given back to you. So this will ensure that the content of the invoice is intact, and also it ensures that whatever you have uploaded onto the portal is same as it is, which is available with you in the digital form. So that's the reason the invoices are being digitally signed. And you will also get a digitally signed QR code. The QR code will contain 9 important parameters, like who is the supplier, purchaser, the invoice amount, the number of items, etc. So this QR code needs to be printed on the invoice. So this is the e-invoicing. So who are supposed to generate the IRN? So government has been changing the threshold of turnover. Initially, it was for taxpayers having more than 500 crore turnover, and subsequently it was reduced to 100 crore, and then 50 crore, 20 crore, 10 crore, and now it has been reduced to 5 crore. So all the taxpayers who have their turnover more than 5 crore are supposed to register their invoices. And what type of invoices they have to register? They have to register the B2B invoices and the export invoices. And what all documents they have to register? They have to register the tax invoices, the credit notes, and the debit notes. How do I know whether I am supposed to register invoices? So as per the notification, all the taxpayers who are having their turnover more than 5 crore, which obviously will be known by the taxpayer themselves, what is their turnover. Based on that, they have to register their invoices. But in case you want to know, as per the government database, whether you are eligible for registering the invoices or not, you can visit one of the 2 portals that have been given here. One is einvoice1.gst.gov.in. Other one is einvoice2.gst.gov.in. So these are the 2 portals which are run by NIC as an IRP. So these are parallel systems. Even if one system is down, you will be able to use the other system. So we have given the redundancy here to ensure that there is a continuous service delivery. You can get into any of these portals, and there in the menu, you can choose search. Under that, e-invoice status of taxpayer. So here you can provide your GSTI, and you will get to know whether you are eligible for registering the invoices or not. So this is the screenshot of what you will be seeing when you enter the GSTIN, whether you are eligible for e-invoicing and from which period as per the government database is indicated here. My turnover is more than 5 crores, but my status shows I am not eligible for e-invoice. How can I enable myself? So even the site says you are ineligible, but you know that your turnover is more than 5 crore. So obviously you are supposed to register your invoices. For that, there is a provision again in the same portal. You can go to einvoice1.gst.gov.in. There you can go to registration in the menu. Under that, there is an option called as e-invoice enablement. So there you have to provide your GSTIN, and it will show some details about this particular GSTIN, the trade name, etc. And then it will ask you to click on the button to send the OTP, and you will receive an OTP on the registered mobile number. The number that you have registered with the GST Common Portal, on that mobile number you will get an OTP. Once you enter the OTP, then you will see the list of GSTINs based on the particular PAN. So here, for all these GSTINs which are eligible for e-invoicing, you can specify the year in which you have crossed the threshold turnover limit and you have to specify your turnover and then submit. So with this, you are eligible for registering the invoices. So this is called as self-enablement. Those for whom the status on the portal, it is showing that you are not eligible for e-invoicing, but you know that you are supposed to register the invoice because your turnover is more than 5 crore, then you have to follow these steps to enable yourself for registering the invoices. Which turnover is considered for eligibility of a taxpayer for registering the invoices? So this is a common question which has been asked by the taxpayers very frequently. If the turnover has crossed the minimum threshold as specified by the government through notification in any of the financial year since GST came into force. So since 2017, if your turnover has crossed 5 crore in any of the financial year, then you are eligible for registering the invoices. So as of now, from 1st August 2023, all the taxpayers whose turnover is more than 5 crore are supposed to register. And if the taxpayer has crossed 5 crore in any of the financial years since 1718, they are supposed to register their invoices. So here we are considering the turnovers of all the GSTians taken on a single PAN, including the exempted supplies, nil supplies, non-GST supplies, etc. So all the supplies are considered here for arriving at the threshold limit. So we are adding up all the turnovers for all the PANs, and based on that, your eligibility is decided. My turnover is less than the threshold announced by government, or my business type is exempted from e-invoice, but the portal shows my business is enabled for e-invoice. How can I get it disabled? So there is no option for disabling it on the portal as such, but you will have to raise a query or raise a grievance on the GST common portal saying that your turnover is less than 5 crore or your business has been exempted from registering the invoices, and accordingly the GSTN will take care of the disablement of your GSTN for invoicing. What about the petrol pump having turnover more than 10 crore, which includes some GST supplies? Or whether the taxpayer need to generate e-invoice if he has 90% non-GST supplies with B2B and B2C invoices and 10% GST liable supplies with B2C invoices. So here, as I mentioned earlier, all the turnovers are considered here for considering whether a taxpayer is eligible for e-invoicing or not. So even if you are selling some non-GST products, based on the turnover, you are eligible, but you have to register only those invoices which are GST invoices. Only the GST invoices need to be registered on the portal. Who all and which type of transactions need not generate IRNs? The government has notified that following some of these businesses need not register their invoices on the IRP. So the sectors or the businesses that have been exempted are as follows: banking or insurance company or financial institution, goods transport agencies, passenger transportation agency, multiplex cinemas, government departments and local authorities, SEZ units, ISD units, composition taxpayers are not supposed to register their invoices. They have been exempted from registering the invoices on the IRP. And what type of transactions are not allowed? The B2C transactions need not be registered on the IRP. So even if you try to register a B2C transaction, they will not be allowed. So as of now, this is the list of exemption, and subsequently, as per the government notification, maybe some of the exemptions may be revoked. If supply value is less than 50,000, since it doesn't require ewaybill, should we still register such invoice for e-invoicing? Here, irrespective of the value of the invoice, as long as you are eligible for registering your GST invoices, you are supposed to register the invoices. So all the invoices which are of B2B transaction or export transaction, irrespective of the value of the invoice, you are supposed to register those invoices on the IRN. If the recipient rejects the service or goods, whether IRN to be generated. So in case you have already generated an IRN and subsequently the recipient rejects the goods or the service, then you have 24 hours within which you can cancel the IRN. But in case 24 hours have passed and subsequently the rejection happens, then there is no scope for cancelling the IRN. But as you have been doing earlier in such cases, you would have raised a credit note, debit note for adjusting the amount. So by way of credit note, debit note, you can adjust the amount. And for the respective credit note and debit note, you have to again register and get an IRN. And in case because of this rejection, the goods has to be returned back from the recipient to the supplier, then an ewaybill can be generated on the delivery challan. What are the types of documents that can be registered to get an IRN? So as mentioned earlier, the tax invoices, credit notes, and debit notes are the only documents that need to be registered on the IRP, and an IRN can be generated on that. No other document needs to be registered on the IRP as of now. What are the modes of invoice registration for taxpayers with turnover less than 100 crore? So if you want to integrate your application through a program with the e-invoice system, then you can approach a GST Suvidha provider or a ERP developer, or those taxpayers who already have integrated their systems with NIC system. Through them, you can integrate your software with the e-invoice system. Otherwise, we have provided Excel-based bulk generation tool for medium to large taxpayers who are generating multiple tens or hundreds of invoices per day. So this Excel-based tool can be downloaded from the e-invoice portal. So it's a very simple tool. If you have MS Excel in your system, then you will be able to just download this Excel free of cost, and this tool can be used for generating multiple invoices at a time. So you need to prepare the data in the Excel as required by this particular tool, or you can copy from your existing software and paste the data as per the requirement of this bulk tool. Then some local validations will be done on the Excel tool. Once all the validations are cleared, then there is a provision to create a JSON file. A file will be generated out of this tool, and that file needs to be uploaded onto the portal. So by way of this, you can generate multiple IRNs in one go by using this particular tool. So even for a smaller businesses who are not generating too many invoices in a day, they are generating very few invoices in a day, we have given an option called as Jump On. So using this particular application, one can generate one by one invoices by entering the details of the invoices one by one. So this can work either in the online mode or offline mode. In the sense, as long as you are connected to the internet, you will be able to enter your invoice details onto this particular web-based tool and then immediately generate the IRN. In case you are not connected to the internet for some time, then you can prepare all your invoice details in this tool in the offline mode. The data will be stored in your local browser, the browser in your system, and subsequently when you get connected to the internet, you can push all those offline invoice details to the IRP portal and get the IRNs generated. And also for small businesses, we have provided a mobile application which can be downloaded from our e-invoice portal, using which you will be able to generate the IRNs even when you are on the move. Can I integrate my system through API with e-invoice system? In case you have a requirement of registration of invoices in large number, and if you would like to integrate your existing financial accounting system or ERP with the e-invoice API system, you can do that either through the GST or ERPs or the taxpayers who have already taken the direct integration with NIC. In case you have your turnover more than 100 crore, then you can directly integrate your system with the NIC API system. Or you may be using some financial accounting system already. So since you have become eligible for registering the invoice, you can talk to the vendor of that software, and it may be possible that they already have this feature inbuilt in your application. They may have to just enable it, or it may be already enabled, but they have to make you aware that this particular option, how it can be used to register your invoices to the existing software itself. Is there a facility to enter one invoice details at a time? So we were talking about bulk generation using the bulk tool, or API integration where machine to machine integration is done. Whenever you are generating an invoice, immediately it gets registered onto the invoice portal. But for those people who have very less number of invoices to be registered, this Japan tool is available, or the mobile application is available, where the invoice details can be entered one by one, and simultaneously the IRN can be generated for the respective invoice. Can we use the same credentials to access e-Invoice and eWaybill in production environment? Since e-Invoice and eWaybill systems are run by NIC, we have integrated both the systems very closely. So if you have been already generating the eWaybills and now you are supposed to generate the IRNs, then you don't have to do any registration on the portal. So the existing user ID and password that you have been using for the eWaybill, the same can be used for registering your invoices and generating the IRNs. And also for redundancy, as I mentioned in the beginning, we are running two portals for registering the invoices, e-Invoice 1 and e-Invoice 2. So the credentials for invoice 1 and e-Invoice 2 also are same. So using the same credentials, either you can register your invoices on invoice 1 portal or on invoice 2 portal. I have registered at GST portal. Do I have to register separately for eWaybill and e-Invoice? Yes. The GST common portal is a separate system. eWaybill and e-Invoice are separate system. So when you have to generate a eWaybill or you have to register your invoices on the e-Invoice portal, you have to take a registration on the either on the eWaybill portal or on the e-Invoice portal. Once you have taken the registration, generated the user ID and password, you can use them either on e-Invoice or on the eWaybill portal. Can I amend the details of a reported invoice for which IRN has already been generated? There is no provision for amendments or changing the content of an invoice once an IRN is generated. So you have to cancel the IRN first and regenerate new invoice with a new invoice number, and that new invoice with a new number has to be registered again on the invoice registration portal. So there is no scope for modifying the invoice details once an IRN is generated. But within 24 hours, you can cancel an IRN, and even if you cancel the IRN, you can't make use of the same document number for re-registering. You have to generate a separate original number on the invoice or on the credit note or on the debit note. And with a new number only, you have to register the invoice and get a new IRN. And in case you have crossed 24 hours where you are not able to cancel it within 24 hours, then maybe while filing your GST R1 returns, where the invoice details are getting auto-populated, that time you can modify the figures. Can we have multiple user creation and administrator option for multiple staff? So this facility was available in the eWaybill. The same is available in the e-Invoice portal as well. So there will be one main user who can create sub-users for the same GSTN to work on the e-Invoice portal. And each sub-user mobile number can be mapped separately so that when OTP is enabled, the OTP comes to the respective staff's mobile number itself. So this facility can be used on the portal. It can be used on the Japan tool. It can be used on a JEP-OFF tool as well as a bulk generation tool. In case of export, we prepare invoice in dollars and how to prepare e-invoice, whether in dollars or rupee. So whatever invoices you have been submitting in GST R1, they used to be have the Indian currency itself, not in foreign currency, right? So similarly, the invoices that need to be registered on the IRP will be having all the amounts in the Indian rupee only. But there are additional fields to capture the foreign currency. So if you are using the APIs, there are separate two fields where you can specify the foreign currency value and the foreign currency name. And similarly, in the bulk tool, you can actually there are four different formats which are suitable for different types of businesses. So in case you are generating the invoices for the export, among the four formats, you can make use of the format C and D, which are more for export transactions. So whenever you are using the bulk tool, you can make use of format C and D, where you can specify the currency in the foreign currency as well. But basically all your amounts of the invoice will be reflecting the Indian rupees, but there is a provision for reflecting the amount in the foreign currency as well. So similarly on the Japan tool also, there is a provision where you can mention the foreign currencies in the respective fields. What about export invoices? GSTN will not be available. So whenever you are registering the export invoices, under the field GST-IN for the recipient, you will be typing URP. So under the recipient GST-IN field, you will be typing URP, and under the recipient state, you will be specifying other country, or in case you are specifying the code, either you can specify 96 or 99 as the other country code, and the PIN code of the recipients will be 69s. So this is what you have to enter when you are registering a export invoice. When invoice details need to be uploaded for export, if port details are to be changed, how to amend or correct? So as I was mentioning earlier, the invoice details cannot be modified. However, these port details are related to actually where the goods have to be shipped or moved to which particular port. So what you can do is, while registering the invoice, in case you are not aware like through which port this particular goods are going to be exported, you can leave that particular detail blank. So subsequently, when you are generating an eWaybill for movement of the goods, that time you can specify the port details. So if you have already specified the port details while generating the IRN, that cannot be modified. But while generating the IRN, if you have kept the port details as blank, subsequently when you are generating an eWaybill for the same IRN, that time you can specify the port details and then generate the eWaybill. There is a provision in eWaybill and e-Invoice system where you can generate the IRN first without any eWaybill details, and using that IRN number as a reference, subsequently you can generate an eWaybill. So while using this particular method, you don't have to give all the part A details. You don't have to give the supplier details, buyer details, item details, etc. Those details will be fetched from the IRN details, whatever is already registered. And you have to only add the transportation details, which is called as part B of the eWaybill. So subsequently, by just giving the IRN number and the part B details, you can generate the eWaybill. So at that time, for the export invoices, you can specify the port details as well. So how to show packaging charges which is not quantified but taxable in nature? So not only these packaging charges, any other such charges like freight or insurance, etc., which are not part of the schema, you can add them as items in the list. So all those things which are taxable, such charges which don't find a place in the schema, those things can be added as items in the list, and the respective tax can be applicable to that. For continuous supply, where the quantity of supply is not fixed and is based on the site measurement and approval, can the material be dispatched on delivery challenge basis? and invoice and e-invoice can be generated on quantity actually measured at the approval time. Or the other related question is, it's a liquid item where the actual quantity cannot be measured until it is delivered. So in these cases, whatever practice has been carried out before e-invoicing, the same thing can be followed. That is, maybe you adjust the difference amount through the credit note or debit note, or initially you move the goods with the delivery challan and subsequently you can raise the actual invoice and register it. So either way, you will be able to register the invoice for such cases. Even for the line sales, like the goods can be moved using the delivery challan, and the goods can be delivered, and on the basis of actual goods delivered to the shops, you can come back and raise the actual invoice, and that actual invoice can be registered on the portal. And if the recipient demands, or as a good practice, you can again reissue the registered invoice copy back to the recipient, maybe whenever the next time the line sales happens, or whenever the supplier visits the place of the recipient. If I have committed mistake in invoice and generated IRN for it, can I cancel the IRN and regenerate the IRN again for the same invoice? So I think already I have covered this. Like, you will be able to cancel the IRN within the 24 hours. But this, even if you cancel it, unlike in ewaybill, you cannot regenerate another IRN for the same document number. You have to cancel the original document itself, generate a new document with a new number, and that document needs to be registered. And this is applicable for tax invoice, credit notes, as well as debit notes. What are the time limits for cancelling the e-invoice, and how long the e-invoices are available at IRP for download? So 24 hours is the time limit for cancellation of an IRN. So today 10 o'clock, if you have generated an IRN, then till tomorrow 10 o'clock, you will be able to cancel the IRN. And also the IRNs that have been generated at the IRP can be downloaded within 2 days only. Either there is a facility on the portal for printing the IRNs from the portal. So you can print the e-invoice from the portal within 24 hours, or you can download the e-invoice details, within 2 days, or you can download the IRN details from the portal within 2 days. After 2 days, you will not be able to print the e-invoices on the portal, or you will not be able to download the invoice details after 2 days. So you have to ensure that whatever IRNs you have generated, you will be downloading them within the next 2 days only. Can the taxpayer generate IRN after ewaybill generation? No. Ideally, first the invoices are generated and they are registered on the portal. And along with the IRN, you can generate a ewaybill in case you have the transportation details. In case you don't have transportation details with you at the time of generation of the invoice or registration of the invoice, you can only generate an IRN, and subsequently using that IRN as a reference, you can generate an ewaybill. So first the invoice will be generated, invoice will be registered. Either with the invoice you can generate the ewaybill, or afterwards you can generate a ewaybill making use of the IRN as a reference. So in case you have to cancel the IRN, first, if you have generated an ewaybill for that particular IRN, first the ewaybill has to be cancelled, and then only it will allow you to cancel the IRN. But in case the goods have started moving and an officer has verified the ewaybill, then even if it is within 24 hours, the ewaybill system will not allow you to cancel the ewaybill. So since you are not able to cancel the ewaybill, you will not be able to cancel the IRN. If the ewaybill has to be generated for the invoice, but the transportation details are not available at the time of invoice generation, then how to generate ewaybill? So as long as you have the invoice details with you and the transportation details with you, in a single go, you can generate the IRN as well as you can generate an ewaybill. But in case you don't have the transportation details at the time of generation of the invoice, you are not aware how you are going to ship the goods, then you can only generate the Part A slip of the e-Waybill along with the IRN. Subsequently, making use of the IRN as a reference, you will be able to provide the transportation details just before moving the goods and then generate an e-Waybill. When an IRN is cancelled, whether the associated e-Waybill also gets automatically cancelled? No. So you have to first cancel the e-Waybill, and only after cancellation of the e-Waybill, the IRN can be cancelled. So cancellation of e-Waybill is not automatic with the cancellation of the IRN. They have to be cancelled separately. First e-Waybill has to be cancelled and subsequently IRN has to be cancelled. Can e-commerce entities generate e-invoice on behalf of the sellers on their platforms? Yes. Here in the e-invoice system, only the suppliers and the e-commerce operators can generate the IRNs or register the e-invoice. Unlike in the e-Waybill system, even the recipient and transporters also were allowed to generate the e-Waybill. But in case of e-invoice, only the supplier or the e-commerce operator will be able to register their invoices on the invoice registration portal. Who has to generate reverse charge mechanism? So as you are aware, RCM has to be done by the, it is on behalf of the purchaser. But here, as I mentioned, the IRNs have to be generated only by the supplier or the e-commerce operator. Even the RCM invoices have to be registered by the supplier only. What is the time limit for generation of IRN? As of now, there is whatever invoices you have generated after 1st April 2021 can be registered on the invoice registration portal even today. So as such, there is no restriction apart from the 1st April 2021 is the latest date of the invoice. So if you have invoice in your business which is prior to 1st April 2021, that invoice will not be able to register today. But all the invoices that have been issued after 1st April 2021, in case you have left out, which you have not registered so far, you can register them even today. But subsequently, government may bring up some notification where you may have to register the invoices maybe within the same month or within the same week. So as per the notification which is going to be issued by the government, that will be the limit of the difference between the date on the invoice and the time at which you will be registering on the portal. Do I need to print e-invoice as provided in the portal, or can I have my own format for e-invoice? So on the portal, we have given only a generic format, so which is common for all the taxpayers. So this is only a sample kind of a format using which you can take a printout of the e-invoice. But it is always advisable to download the signed invoices onto your local system and import it into your existing software in case they have provided that facility. And as per your custom format of invoice, you can print the invoices. But only thing is, printing of the QR code on these registered invoices is mandatory. So whatever format you print the registered invoices using your own software or whatever, it is mandatory that you have to print the QR code on those invoices. And the size of the QR code, etc., it should be sufficient enough for any QR code scanning application to read the QR code. In the current schema, there is no provision to report details of supplies not covered under GST. That is, for example, a hotel is issuing a single invoice with B2B supply, which is covered under GST, and some items are not covered under GST. How do I register such invoices? So now onwards, the supplier has to split the bill into GST bill and non-GST bill. And only the GST bills have to be registered on the IRP, not the non-GST bills. TDS of income tax is not part of the e-invoice schema. Is it not required to be displayed in e-invoice? If so, how to pass these details? There is no separate field specified in the e-invoice schema for entering such values as TDS of income tax. But there are other fields like other charges. So in the e-invoice schema, there is a field called as other charges. There you can put these kind of charges like TDS of income tax, etc. And that is how you can tally the amount of the invoice. What is the maximum number of line items which can be reported in an invoice? So we are allowing up to 1,000 items per invoice by default for the API, etc. And for JEP and mobile application, it is not practically possible to enter that many items. But in case you have integrated your system through the APIs and your system allows entering of more than 1,000 line items and you want to register such invoices, then you can send a mail to us, support.einv.api@gov.in. We will let you know which particular API you can use to register the invoices which are having more than 1,000 line items. But for the taxpayers with turnover more than 5 crore and less than 10 crore, we don't think there will be such scenarios where more than 1,000 line items have to be entered. In case you have such scenarios, you can send a mail to us and we'll let you know how to deal with such invoices which are having more than 1,000 invoices. Sorry, 1,000 items in an invoice. In case of credit note and debit note, is there any validation with respect to referred invoice number? No, whenever you are registering the credit notes or debit notes, we are not validating it against the original invoice for which against which the credit note or debit note is issued. For the interstate or intrastate transactions identified, here in the e-invoice schema, there is a field called as place of supply, POS. So this is used along with the supplier's state to identify whether this particular transaction is intrastate or interstate. In case of ewaybill, we were looking at the dispatch from ship to state code and pin code, and accordingly we used to treat it as an intrastate or interstate. But since the e-invoice also covers the services where the supply can be in some other place, so based on the state code which is mentioned in the place of supply and the state code of the supplier, the system will decide whether this particular transaction is intrastate or interstate. What if the e-invoice portal is not accessible? So since it is a very critical system which will be used by the taxpayers across the country 24/7, we have taken care of the making the systems highly available. We are running two independent portals. One is einvoice1.gst.gov.in, and also we are running a parallel portal, an independent portal called einvoice2.gst.gov.in. So you can register your invoices either using the first portal or the second portal. Similarly, for less number of invoices, if you have to register, then there is a JEP tool which is accessible from jep.einvoice1.gst.gov.in or jep.einvoice2.gst.gov.in. So you can make use of either of the portals and register your invoices. But there is a point that needs to be noted here. If you have generated an IRN on e-invoice one portal, then if you have to cancel it, you have to go to e-invoice one portal only. If you have to generate an ewaybill based on the IRN, you have to go to the e-invoice one portal only. And if you want to get the details of the IRN, you have to go to the same portal. Similarly, if you have generated the IRN on e-invoice 2 portal, all the operations like cancel or generation of ewaybill for the same IRN or getting the details of the IRN, you have to go to the respective portal only. Whether API user should generate credentials to access the other e-invoice setup of NIC. In case you are using the API, the credentials for accessing the API, whether you are accessing e-invoice 1 or 2 are same. So the same credentials work for e-invoice 1 portal as well as e-invoice 2 portal. But the token that you have generated on e-invoice 1 have to be used on the e-invoice 1 portal only. There will be a separate token for e-invoice 2 portal. So you have to re-authenticate on the other portal and get the token for the respective portal. So the tokens are not interoperable. Only the credentials are interoperable between eInvoice 1 and eInvoice 2 API systems. Can one register for the eInvoice operations through portal or API at either of the portals? No, registration and change of credential has to be done only on the eInvoice 1 portal. So whatever changes you make on eInvoice 1 portal with respect to your registration details or your credentials, they will be immediately copied onto the eInvoice 2 portal. So there is no change provision for changing the credentials or registration details on the eInvoice 2 portal. So whatever changes you have to do, you will be doing on eInvoice 1 portal, and those details will be automatically reflected onto the eInvoice 2 portal with respect to your registration details and the credentials. That is a user ID, that is a password and other details. What is two-factor authentication? So we have recently introduced a additional layer of security for your accounts to protect your own accounts on the ewaybill and e-Invoice portals. So here we are sending an one-time password for every login. So whenever you are trying to log in into the portal, once you have enabled for the two-factor authentication, you will receive an OTP onto your mobile device. By entering the correct OTP only, you will be allowed to access your account. So how it has to be done? So we have provided three options here. While you are enabling for the OTP, it is always advisable for you to enable the OTP option on the portal to safeguard your own account. So either you can choose an option where you get the OTP as an SMS onto your registered mobile number, or you can make use of an application called as Sandesh. Sandesh is a WhatsApp kind of an application which is developed by NIC. This can be downloaded from the Play Store, and using this Sandesh app, you can configure your application so that your OTPs come onto the Sandesh app. So this is an alternative to whatever you receive on the SMS. So either you can opt for SMS OTP, or you can install the Sandesh app onto your registered mobile, and you can get an OTP on this particular app. The third option is we have also developed an application called as NIC GST Shield, which again can be downloaded from the ewaybill or the e-Invoice portal. And once you have installed it, there is a configuration procedure which is again available on the portal. So following that, you will be able to configure this NIC GST Shield application on your registered mobile number. So using this particular application, you can generate an OTP in the offline mode, even when your mobile network is not good, when you are not getting the OTPs in time, etc. You can make best use of this particular mode of getting the OTP, using which you will be able to log in into your ewaybill or e-Invoice portal with a secure way. Is two-factor authentication mandatory? As of now, this is optional. So it is always advisable for you to protect your account. So please go to the portal, enable the two-factor authentication. You choose whatever way you want, whether you want the OTP on the SMS or on the Sandesh, or you would like to use the NIC GST Shield application. Any of the mode you can use, but please enable the two-factor authentication to protect your own account. And shortly, it is going to be made mandatory. It will be notified through the portal. So once it is made mandatory, you are forced to enable the OTP for two-factor authentication to get OTP as a second factor of security for your account. What is the meaning of status of e-Invoice as rejection? So sometimes it may happen that actually, as I had mentioned earlier, now we have multiple invoice registration portals. So all the IRPs will be checking for the duplication of IRN on a single system, which is called as deduplication system. So as you are aware, once an invoice is registered, it will not allow you to register the same invoice again. So for this check, the IRP systems will be checking the deduplication system to see whether a document is already registered or not. So in case the due duplication system is not accessible to the IRP or it is not working, in that case, some taxpayer may register the same document with multiple IRPs. But subsequently, when the deduplication system comes up or starts working, then all the IRP systems will be pushing the IRNs that have been generated with them during the time at which the deduplication system was down. Then the deduplication system will take only one of the IRP's IRN. All other IRP's IRNs will be rejected, which have been generated for the same document number. So in that case, the same document which has been registered with multiple IRPs, except for the one that has been registered on the deduplication system, all others will be marked as rejected. So whenever you go to those respective IRP portals and get the IRN details, then in the status, otherwise you would have got either as an active or cancelled. And now because of the multiple IRPs being in picture, you may get an additional status called as rejected. So that indicates since you have registered the same document with multiple IRPs, only one of the IRP's IRN is registered in the duplication system, and only that IRN is treated as a valid IRN, and all the other IRNs that are registered with the other IRPs will be treated as rejected. So we have covered most of the frequently asked questions, and further if you want to refer to any of the details related to the e-invoice, you can visit the portals either einvoice1.gst.go.in or einvoice2.gst.go.in. So you can visit these two portals, and there you have lot of material and information available for you. You have the user manuals for all these operations. Maybe it is a bulk generation tool, or it's a Japan, or it's a mobile. So all the related user manuals are available. Then under the tools, you can download the bulk generation tool, or you can download the QR code scanning tool. So in case you have received an e-invoice with a QR code on that, and you want to verify whether it is a genuine e-invoice or not, you can download this mobile application from the portal, and using this mobile application, you can scan the QR code. It will give you the 9 key values of this particular transaction, that is supplier GST and buyer GST and the value of the invoice, etc. And you can verify this content against whatever is printed on the invoice. So you can make use of this tool, and also you have facilities where you can search the taxpayer details. You can check your eligibility for e-invoicing or not, and so many other details are available. And also at the right side, you can see under registration the portal login. In case you are new to both ewaybill as e-invoice as well as e-invoice, you can register yourself here. And in case you are not shown as eligible, then if you want to self-enable yourself, then you can make use of the e-invoice enablement option, where you can provide your the turnover in which particular year you had crossed that particular turnover, and then you can enable yourself for e-invoicing. I think I have covered the frequently asked questions now. Now let us take some of the questions from the chat box which you have been putting in the WebEx chat box.
Yeah, now we'll take up the questions which we have received. So now we'll take up the questions one by one. The first question what we have received is, if a mistake has happened in e-invoice and we have cancelled it, then can we use the same invoice number to create another invoice? So here basically, as we have already explained in the session, that once a e-invoice is cancelled, you cannot use that same invoice to report it again. Even the number cannot be used. You have to scrap that particular invoice and make a fresh invoice and report that on the portal. Next is there any provision for bill of supply for exempted goods? So in the e-invoice system, we provide only for the invoices. So there is no provision for bill of supply. It is only for B2B and GST related. So this cannot be provisioned. How much time eWaybill is valid as we send material to transport after 2 to 3 days? So as I understand it is, you are asking here after e-invoice is generated, how many days eWaybill, after how many days eWaybill can be generated. So as of now, there is no limit on this. You can generate the eWaybill anytime after the e-invoice is generated. So is it necessary?
However, it may be noted that e-waybill is valid for a particular period. It depends upon the distance which is going to be traveled. So even when you generate e-waybill, from that day, whatever the validity has been mentioned in e-waybill, within that time the goods should move to the destination. Otherwise, with a proper reason, you can extend the validity of the e-waybill. Yeah, please go ahead, Sunil.
So next question is it necessary to have an e-invoice on eWaybill? So here we say that e-invoice is required for all the GSTians who have been who are eligible for e-invoicing. And eWaybill, it depends on the e-invoice. So if it is only a goods related, eWaybill is required for this. Then can we make eWaybill without e-invoice? So presently this is possible, but later on the government may decide on making it eWaybill with e-invoice mandatory. So do you have any more comments on this?
Murali Krishna, do you want to add anything? Okay.
Is e-invoice compulsory in B2C turnover? So here we have already said that e-invoice is only for B2B and exports. So B2C, you cannot report those invoices to the e-invoice portal.
You can increase the font of the.
Okay. Next question is there any provision to cancel the invoice? So there is a provision to cancel the invoice. You can go and check the portal, or else even in the JEP portal, there is a option provided to cancel the invoice, but this should be within 24 hours of generation of the invoice. Next is how.
Also, it will be noted that once you cancel the invoice, same invoice number cannot be used for the next invoice. So in a physical form, whatever the 24 invoice number 24 you have issued, and if you cancelled, that will be scratched. And the next invoice you have to generate from the next invoice number 25, 26, whatever is there in your bill. From there, you have to generate for that invoice, whichever you have cancelled. Yes, please.
Next question is how to cancel eWaybill in Japan. So no separate button is provided. Yes, eWaybills need to be cancelled in the eWaybill system only. The next one is login OTP can be provided on mobile and registered email ID both. This is required for convenience. But as you know, the OTP is very confidential, and hence it is being sent only to the mobile as part of security guidelines.
And also you may be noting that the email ID will be may be used by multiple people in some of the organization. So that may not be a proper security. So to overcome that, in addition to the mobile, we have also given the mobile app, which you can download, which will get synced with your OTP. and also Sandesha app is there. So any one of these three methods is very secured way rather than sending to email ID.
Next question is, we are running a resort how to file e-invoicing. So the process of e-invoicing is the same across all the businesses. If your GSTN or your PAN is eligible for e-invoicing, that it is above 5 crores, then you need to report this e-invoice in the invoice registration portal. So however, the process of making the invoice or preparing the invoice is the same as you have done before. There is no change in that.
If you are issuing B2B invoice, yes, e-invoicing is required, whether you are resort, hotel or restaurant or whatever is there. The same format will be there, same process will be followed.
So export of services, how can we file e-invoice and values in US dollars? How can we show in the e-invoice portal? So basically in the export of services, you need to report, or any exports, you need to report the values in the Indian currency only. But however, we have also provided the foreign currency wherein you can put the export duty in that. So that option is available in the Japan. And of course, if you are preparing the e-invoice using some tool, there also you can report this particular value and upload it and get it registered in the portal. For B2C, retail or export via e-commerce, is e-invoice mandatory. So as we have already said, it is based on your PAN. If your PAN is more than 5 crores, you need to report all the invoices, all which are again B2B and exports. B2C, you will not be allowed to report it. The next question is how to do API registration for Tally Prime. So one is, firstly, you can contact your Tally organization for understanding how to register, and also in the e-invoice portal, we have provided an option for those who want to do a API registration with Tally. You can go to the API registration menu option, and there you can find the various options so that you can register your user under the Tally Prime and you can report the invoices through the API. Next is time limit for e-invoice. Sir, can you just tell about this point?
Currently, there is no time limit for generation of e-invoice. That is, for example, physical invoice, if I prepared today, I can generate the e-invoice tomorrow, day after tomorrow, even after 1 week or 2 weeks. Sometimes one month also. But now the relaxation is there. Currently, government has given that relaxation will be removed. Government is going to give a maximum 7 days for a generation of e-invoices after preparation of the physical invoice in your system. There are two things here involved. One is you are preparing your invoice in your system, maybe ERP or manually or whatever. That is actually the original invoice. Then that invoice you are registering on the e-invoice portal. That is called as a e-invoice. So gap between the initial invoice to the e-invoice is maximum 7 days. Currently that limit is not there. Gradually that limit is going to come. So better prepare and start generating. Ideally speaking, whenever you prepare the physical invoice, same day you have to generate the e-invoice. Whatever reason, if you want to delay, maximum you can delay for a few days. That's all.
Sir, just to add here, say to
Yes,
add to all the stakeholders, better to generate the e-invoice if you are moving the goods along with the e-Waybill. Though the portal allows to generate the e-invoice little later date, what are the limits they are going to prescribe? But when the movement is there and you are mandated to generate a e-invoice, if it is more than 5 crore from the August 1st, better to generate the e-invoice in the day one itself, and you carry along with the eWaybill, so there will be no penalties applicable on that particular route. Otherwise, there will be a problem. And the law also says that.
Okay, so now we'll take the next question. We are a municipal corporation of Bhavnagar, that is local authority. Are we liable for e-invoicing? If not, how should we inform the GST department?
Just to add here, actually, government has issued a notification saying that government agencies are exempted for generating e-invoice. If your municipal corporation is a more government agency, you need not have to generate the e-invoice and you need not have to inform anybody also. So, government departments are exempted for generating e-invoices. Yeah, next please.
Next question is whether two-factor authentication is required for the API holders. So this is only while registering the API user in the portal, you need this OTP, which will be verified. Otherwise, once you are registered in API, you can register the invoices through the APIs directly. Here, there is no requirement of two-factor authentication. It will be from system to system, so all that is not required. Only when you are using Japan and the e-invoice portal, the two-factor authentication is required. Next is does digital signature is must? So this is a bit, the question is not clear, but here we have to tell that, yes sir?
Say that, we'll answer that. When you are submitting your invoice, you need not have to digitally sign and give into the registration portal. So basically physical copy or signing and giving to your party, that will continue as usual. But when you are registering on the portal, it need not have to be digitally signed. So whatever the schema we are given in that format, you have to pass the data. Actually, the government portal will digitally sign and give back you this invoice. It is a other way where government will sign and give, but you need not have to sign as of now. In the future, as you are right, the government may bring a procedure saying that you have to digitally sign and upload into the portal. Presently, that is not necessary. Yes, please go ahead.
Next question is, we are running a business providing online services like domain and hosting. Does the ERP portal provide a direct web-based API for businesses whose aggregate turnover has crossed 5 crores? So basically, we are giving the API integration only for those businesses which are 100 crore and above. So for 5 crores, it is not possible. Next is our ewaybill is on delivery challan as we are job workers. Can we do it via e-invoice portal? So here in the e-invoice system, the invoices are generated for the supplies and not for the job work. So if it is on only delivery challan, you can directly generate this ewaybill on the ewaybill portal under delivery challan. Next question is, some of our customers do not have a GST IN. In this case, do their invoices still need to be generated as e-invoices? So we have already mentioned that this kind of a transaction is B2C, where the customer is not having a GST IN. So such transactions are not allowed in the invoice registration portal. So you need not report such invoices, and you have to report only those invoices which are of B2B and export style. Next question is, can you suggest any GSP providers that offer a direct web-based API to the ERP portal without the need for an intermediate APIs or web services? We prefer not to store any of our data with the GSP. So you can see the details of these GSPs in the portal. The contact email IDs also are available. You may contact the GSPs and get more information from them. So next is, can we start e-invoicing right away? Will it get registered? Yes, you can start doing the e-invoicing if your turnover is above 5 crores and if your GST is enabled for e-invoicing. So, but you have to note that the invoices that you enter into the portal will be your real invoices. As these invoices will get reported on the invoice registration portal and also on the GST common portal, this will be shown.
Madam, the next question is, what is the meaning of turnover? A gross turnover or net gross sales less return? See, one should understand we have used annual aggregate turnover. Annual aggregate turnover means if you have a business in different parts of the country, like Tamil Nadu, Karnataka or Kerala, different parts, and if your turnover is in each state like 1 crore, 2 crore, 3 crore, if all put together, if it is more than 5 crore, then also you have to generate e-invoice in the state of Karnataka, though you have a turnover less than 5 crore. Means to say, it's all PAN based. If it's all put together for different states, if it crosses 5 crores, then you have to generate e-invoice. And in this, even the tax element is included in the turnover, and also the exempted turnover also is included. For example, if you do say, if you're a dealer, if you're a dealer in diesel and petrol, you have a petrol bunk. Okay, in such case, the exempted turnover is more. It's a non-GST supply, and GST supply is less. In such cases, also you have to generate if the turnover all put together is more than 5 crore. I hope I am very clear on that.
Okay. So next question is, if I cancel invoice and regenerate next day, or after it is possible to regenerate the previous day dates. So can you just tell on this? Hello, but sir, can you tell on this?
If I cancel invoice and regenerate next day or after it is possible to regenerate previous day date. Present
Yes.
it is possible previous dates, but actually as a business practice, once you cancel the invoice, you have to generate a new invoice, but not for the backdated at all. It has to be the future date. Otherwise, you have to null off the transaction by using a credit or a debit. That should be the procedure.
Okay. Is there any exception for raising e-invoice for SEZ? So presently in the portal, we have provided these options, that is B2B, SEZ, exports and deemed exports. So you can use these options to generate the invoices for SEZ. E-invoice applicable 5 to 10 crore or above 10 crore, also the same rules applicable.
Just to add, is there any exemption for raising e-invoice for SEZ? Government has given a exemption for SEZ supplier to not to generate e-invoice. But if SEZ is recipient, e-invoice has to be generated. And if the supplier is above 5 crore. Please note there is a difference. SEZ as a supplier, he need not have to generate e-invoice. But as a recipient, he should get the e-invoice. Yes, next, continue.
So next is e-invoice, whether it is applicable for 5 to 10 crore or above 10 crore, also the same rules applicable.
Yes, it is applicable for 5 crore above now from August 1st. Currently, it is 10 crore above. 5 crore above people also can start generating now on the portal and start using it on the system.
If partnership has 8 crore turnover in last financial year and partnership firm closed by March 2023 end, one of the partner again opened new individual business, is he need to generate e-invoice?
Krishna, Dr. Murali Krishna, please.
In this particular case, it's basically based on the business entity. Just because you have dissolved the partnership firm and you have come to the individual status, this doesn't apply at all. Only in that particular entity you have to get into that particular. In this case, it's not so.
One minute, sir. I'm just.
Dr. Rane can stop sharing the screen.
There are questions on the chat itself that we can take it up.
1 minute. I'm just sharing once more. So the next question is, we transport something office by road. Last year, August, we crossed 5 crore. So that's all. This question is not very clear. We will leave this.
No, I think he's saying he has crossed 5 crore last year. So means now he has to generate the e-invoice wherever it is applicable for B2B. Whether you are a transporter or otherwise, whenever you cross a 5 crore, all B2B GST invoices has to be generated on the portal.
The next question is goods transport agency exempted from GST e-Invoicing?
Murali Krishna, can you add into this?
Yes, so as per the notification, GT, they need not generate e-invoicing.
Okay. Next one is, I am a rent cab operator supplying cabs for transporting of passengers to corporate clients. Do we come under the e-invoicing category?
Krishna?
Certainly, sir, they come under that. They are not exempted. As long as if it is a B2B transaction. Business to business transaction, if it is more than 5 crore turnover for the previous financial years, even these rent-a-cab operators supplying cabs to transporting of passengers to separate corporate clients, if it is a B2B transaction, it applies.
Thank you. Next is, two-factor authentication is required for e-invoice and eWaybill. Yes, it is required. Presently, it is optional, but in a few weeks, we will be making it mandatory, and you will have to register it for two-factor authentication. Once we upload e-invoice in GST portal, is there a possibility of making any changes? Sir, but sir, you can.
No, yeah, no. Once you upload the invoice, there is no possibility of changing any invoice detail. Only you have, if any mistake is there, you have to cancel the invoice within 24 hours and generate the new invoice on the all those details only. That is one option. If 24 hour has been crossed, only you can do the adjustment using the debit note and credit note wherever the GST tax or values are involved. Even if you are not able to do that also, then you can, when R1, when you are submitting R1, this detail can be corrected in the R1 portal. So 3 things are there on this.
Okay. Next is how to register in e-invoicing in GST portal. So as already explained, there is one option here in the portal. That is, if you go to registration and portal login, there you can register your GSTIN. If you have already registered in eWaybill, then there is no need to register, and you can use the same credentials. Next question, is that necessary to generate eWaybill or e-invoice for tax-free goods, that is agriculture produce? So, Krishna sir, can you just?
It is not required because only for taxable supplies you need to have a eWaybill. Even e-invoice also in this case, it's an exempted commodity. There's no need to generate e-invoice or eWaybill in this case.
Okay. The next question is, can we start from July 2023?
So the very easy is very eager to generate. If the option is there, enabled that. Madam, can you generate from July 2023?
Presently, we
Yes,
have.
you can start generating from now itself. It is enabled. Those who are registered or they want to register, and they can start generating from June itself. July also they can do. There is no problem.
Thank you, sir.
Next is how to register in e-invoicing tool. This we have already told in the previous question. Next is when we create sales bill in sales ledger, we select sales and the tax analysis not shown like sales taxable or interstate taxable. So this question is a bit not clear, so I don't know.
No. What he's trying to tell, man, there is no classification in that particular. That's what he's trying to tell. But only thing that we are trying to tell you, any outward supplies for a business to business, let be interstate or local or export. Even export transaction also, you have to generate e-invoice. Though your ledger contains everything, but you can individually, for a different category, you can generate e-invoices.
Next is how to register and upload e-invoice in GST portal. So we have already explained the process of registration and uploading invoices. There is a help option in the invoice portal. You can go to that and you can see, get a large number of videos and user manuals, and you can refer the same. The next question is what about e-invoicing in the contracting work, where we submit the invoice after completion of work and the material supplied at least 1 or 2 weeks ago, and the material supplied part by HSN's code are different compared to the SAC code which we need to bill to the client. So Murali Krishna sir, can you just answer?
1 second, ma'am. I didn't read the question. What about what about e-invoicing in the contracting work where we submit the invoice after completion of work and the material supplied at least 1 or 2 weeks ago, and the material supplied part by part HSN code are different compared to the SAC code, which we need to be billed to the client. See, this is a very, see, in a contracting work means basically comes under a service, which is a continuous supply. Whenever you raise an invoice for that particular contracting work, and you should raise an invoice for that. And before that, any pro forma invoice would have given, I think that may not be required. And any invoices periodically you raise, you have to raise the e-invoices. And for the material movement, you remember, you have to raise a eWay bill when there is a movement is happening. Otherwise, on the road, I think the watchfulness will be there in that.
Okay. Next question, how to generate e-invoice for export? Indian rupee value we came to know after the shipping bill.
No, but when you are moving the goods, you will be having the knowing the approximate value involved for the invoice. Basically, dollar equivalent value will be there that you can mention and generate the invoice.
Any reconciliations which can be done later.
Yeah.
Can we generate e-invoice for multiple vehicle dispatch in different dates?
Yes, it is possible. Already there is a provision. You generate a e-invoice, one invoice for continuous supply. Also, you will have a one invoice, e-invoice. Subsequently, you will have a multiple vehicles for ewaybill movement purpose. Multiple ewaybill you will generate for that. Already we have given an example in the portal. Also, you can follow that.
Okay.
The next question, do all e-invoice require eWaybill regardless of the amount? See, eWaybill is required only when there is a value more than 50,000 rupees, which includes tax element also. Only in such cases, eWaybill is required. Less than 50,000, eWaybill is not required. But excluding two categories, if it is a interstate job work or the movement of the handicrafts, interstate movement of handicraft, irrespective of the value, you need a eWaybill. Otherwise, if it is more than 50,000 value. But in case of e-invoice, irrespective of the value, even rupee, 1 rupee, you have to generate a e-invoice if it is a B2B transaction, means business to business transactions, other than exempted category.
Okay, thank you. Next, can we use Japan to raise B2C sales invoices? So this already we have answered that in the invoice.
No, B2C basically Japan tool does not provide a mechanism for you to generate B2C transaction sales invoice. B2 is exempted for e-invoicing, so it is not available. And also I have seen some of the queries where people are saying I am more than 5 crore, my turnover is there, but most of the time I am only doing the B2C transaction. Should I generate the e-invoice? Yes, e-invoice has to be generated wherever B2B transactions are there. If your total turnover is more than 5 crore and where B2C is there, that is not required. Only B2B, even one B2B invoice you are issuing in a month, that needs the e-invoice. All other things are exempted. You need not have to have.
Yeah, just to add on to what Sir said, I would like to repeat once again. In that 5 crore turnover, let be 4 crore 99 lakhs. 99,000 will be exempted. Even 1 rupee if is there, a B2B transaction, such 1 rupee transaction need to be captured e-invoice. That one should remember. Okay.
Next question is, let me know that from last year only our turnovers are more than 5 crore.
Answered, ma'am.
Okay. Let me know that from last year only our turnovers are more than 5 crores. So we have to raise invoice from 1st August. But we can make e-invoice right now.
Yes.
On trial
They
basis.
can start. Yeah, they can start now.
See, another thing I would to add here, even in the present year, for example, in the present financial year from April, if you ask me, if a turnover is only 1 crore or 50 lakhs, whereas the previous financial year is more than 5 crore, then also you have to generate e-invoice in the present financial year also for a business to business transaction. That too 5 crore and above from August 1st, that is mandatory.
Okay. If export invoice contains more than one container, how to generate e-invoice?
Container does not matter. Container is only for the movement purpose. That is related to the eWaybill. But you will have one invoice only. Multiple eWaybill will be there for movement of the container. Okay, next.
Next question is, if we have made a bill for taking advance money for the material we sell, then how we will make an e-way bill without the material?
If
See,
we
e-way bill is only for the movement of goods. When there is no movement of goods at all, there is a question of raising e-way bill doesn't arise at all.
for advance money what you have collected, there is no question about generation of e-invoice. Because invoice will be issued only once you complete your work or when you collect actual sales takes place, whether it is a goods or service. That time only the e-invoice is required and invoice is required. Yes, next.
Next is, if I generate few invoice on trial basis and upload in GST portal, then should I delete such invoice at the time of monthly filing of GSTR1?
No, you need not have to delete it. If you have generated the actual invoice, there is no problem. It will be there as usual. It will go and sit into GSTR1. If there is a mistake, you can delete, no problem. But however, this will be optional, no? Up to August to July 1st, it will not be considered seriously. Only July 1st onwards, July 31st onwards, whatever you entered, it will be counted and sent it to the GSTR1 and processed there. Even if before it comes that, you can delete in GSTR1 and enter your actual invoices.
Okay, sir. How to cancel the invoice after a month?
Presently, it is not possible. Once you generate the invoice, only in the GSTR1, there will be provision to delete that transaction and give the reason for that.
Okay, sir. Next is, we have 6 different GST numbers. Then we have to register every GST number for e-invoice.
You can answer it.
Certainly, see, we have different GST numbers. That's what I explained in the earlier scenario. I have a 5 crore turnover in different 5 states. In each and every state is 1 crore. I have a turnover. Okay, let me take a 6 crore turnover, 6 different registrations. Then I have to raise the e-invoice in the particular every state. I have to raise if there is a B2B transaction. Remember, another thing I would like to add here. I request stakeholders and taxpayers don't get bogged down with what is the invoice. It is nothing but a replacement to what your physical invoice, what you are doing. It is nothing but you are generating an invoice or registering the invoice. What are the physical copy, what you are doing it on the invoice portal. And whenever even the advance is received, at that time when you raise the invoice also, you used to raise a physical invoice. Even in such cases also you have to raise the e-invoice if it is a B2B transaction. Please remember, don't have any confusion over that. Next, please.
We have to generate one invoice monthly on a foreign company for fees for advisory services. Is there a provision to generate invoice in US dollars against equivalent Indian rupees?
Currently, whatever the procedure you are following, the same thing will continue. The same thing we are asking you to enter into the invoice portal. So if you are preparing the USD, then equivalent rupee you are writing, the same thing you are going to put it on the e-invoice also. Whether it is advisory service or some other thing, the same process will continue. Please note that in nowhere the e-invoicing system what has been brought by government is going to replace your manual process or whatever the procedure you are following. All those things will continue as usual. Once you prepare the invoice, we are telling you to upload it to the portal. That's all. All other things will continue as usual.
Okay, sir. Next question is, do hospitals giving bills to patients do e-invoicing?
It may not be required because it is B2C transaction. If it is B2B transaction, yes, e-invoicing is required.
Next is, I have 5 crore turnover in 2017. Now it is less than 5 crore. Should I have to generate e-invoice?
Yes, you have to generate. Next question.
I am a service provider with turnover 5 crore and above. Am I eligible?
Yes, you have to generate e-invoice.
What is the maximum time allowed for movement of goods after raising the e-invoice?
It depends upon your, as already Dr. Murali Krishna has told, once you generate the invoice, once you start moving the e-way bill, Immediately you have to move the, whatever the time is there, ewaybill, you have to generate and move the goods. But time limit for movement of goods is defined in the ewaybill, depending upon the duration, distance what you are moving. That ewaybill will define the validity of the movement of the goods.
Sir, I would like to add one thing here. With my service experience, I would like to say, don't generate a e-invoice or generate a e-Waybill without the consignment is loaded. See that the consignment is loaded on the vehicle or the consignment, whichever the goods vehicle. Then you have your e-invoicing and also e-Waybill together. Because I have come across many times, they would have generated the bill and the invoice different and e-Waybill different and the vehicle number different, and suddenly they would get into the issues on when the goods are on movement. Next, please.
Just to add
I'm a
here,
service.
like IRN can be generated whenever they want to generate the IRN, but making use of the IRN as a reference, the e-Waybill can be generated subsequently. So at the time of movement of goods, by just making use of the IRN as a reference, the e-Waybills can be generated. The advantage here is you don't have to enter all the party details of the e-Waybill. Those details will be taken from the IRN, and only you have to provide the transportation details and then generate the e-Waybill.
Okay, next is I am a service provider. I act as a mediator, so I bill for services via SAC. But there is also transfer of goods. So how do I how to do this through e-invoice? Will it automatically change SAC to HSN for eWaybill?
No, when goods movement is there, HSN will come into the picture. If SAC is there, only if you are generating e-invoice with SAC, then e-Waybill is not required. But the invoice is having SAC also and HSN goods HSN also, then e-Waybill is required. Okay, even one component of goods is there, then e-Waybill is required. You have to generate e-Waybill for that.
The next question is, can e-invoice once generated be cancelled or modified for mistakes? This is already answered.
Yes,
So,
cancellation it can do, modification is not possible.
Next is service output invoices to be raised in e-invoice system?
Yes, all service related e-invoices has to be generated on e-invoice portal.
Next is turnover less than 5 crore. Can we enable e-invoice for the generation of STN e-invoice for sending shipments to Flipkart warehouses?
If you are preparing the e-invoice, yes, it is invoice you are preparing and sending across. Yes, it is possible. You can even less than 5 crore. Optionally, you can enable yourself and generate the e-invoice.
Next is, if the invoice amount is within 50,000, then whether eWaybill is required?
Not required. It is optional. Next.
Since all details including tax invoice numbers are entered to prescribed total, then why once again eWaybill is to be generated?
eWaybill is for the movement of goods. E-invoice is for the taking ITC credit or so. eWaybill will prove that goods have been moved from one location to the other location. So vehicle number will be there in eWaybill, which will say that goods have been moved. Next.
When to generate e-invoice in case of works contract? Is it at the time of delivery of material or on completion of execution of job?
Dr. Murali Krishna, please.
Once again, sir, which is the question?
When to generate e-invoice in case of works contracts? Is it at the time of delivery of material or on completion of execution of job?
No, see, basically, that's what I said in a works contract, for a service, it will be, most of the time, it will be continuous supply. And at times, one invoice also can be raised or several invoices also can be raised. It depends upon how actually the practice, what taxpayer is practicing it.
Okay. Will we have to create multiple logins for multiple GST? So here the logins are based on the GST. So if you have multiple GSTs, then you need to register for every GST so that you can upload your corresponding invoices on the portal. For exporter, need to submit both currency invoice for registration or only Indian rupee value based tax invoice need to be submitted.
Indian rupees is a must, but currency in other countries is optional. It is up to you to define that in the e-invoice.
Next is how to register for e-invoice. That is einvoice1.gst.gov.in. We have already explained the process, how to register. You can go to the portal and also check for the registration option, and subsequently you can register. What is the process to check the last month, last year e-invoice QR code invoice in the portal? Since the portal will provide only for 2 days.
We are having a physical invoice. QR code can be read on the using the app. App will read and tell the content what is there on that. It is whether the valid e-invoice or not. So for downloading, it is only for 2 days. If you have a physical copy, you can verify on the portal by giving the QR code there.
Okay. Next is there option on the GST portal for raising invoices, export invoices under ICT in US dollars?
So again, we are saying the same thing. Yeah, all export invoice, Indian rupee also should be there, and you can mention optionally in the foreign currency.
Next question is, can we file GSTR1 after generating e-invoice because that transaction came in GST portal?
You need not have to file GSTR1. Basically, this data we are sending to the GSTN portal. GSTN is preparing a GSTR1 and showing you and allowing you to update the invoice detail what you have uploaded there, B2B and B2 export. Then you can submit there. This option is already taken care. You need not have to do the double work there. Because the idea is take this data, send it to the GSTR1, prepare the GSTR1, prepare next level. 3B also will be prepared and all the things will be taken care automatically.
Okay. Next is, can we start generating e-invoice from an earlier date? Suppose we start generating from 15 July instead of 1st August to implement.
Yes, you can do. From 1st July also you can do.
Okay. Next is, how many invoices can be generated at once via bulk upload? So here this depends on the size of the file. So we have allowed a maximum of 2 MB. So since it depends, every invoice detail, the data on this particular invoice is varying. So we cannot define this. But however, the total file size should be within 2 MB. Then that can be uploaded in the portal. Then next is, can we raise an e-invoice for B2B with ₹10 invoice?
Yes, you can write.
Yes.
Even for 1 rupee also they have to register.
Yes, yes. What is the difference between e-invoice 1 and 2? There is no difference between e-invoice 1 and 2 except there are 2 URLs, 2 websites. Anywhere you can go and generate the invoice. No issue on that. Both are similar, both are modules, everything is the same. Okay.
Next is, how long after generating the invoice IRN needs to be generated?
That's what we told. Ideally speaking, immediately you have to do within a day or so. You should not drag it long time because it may have some other implication. Currently, even though time limit is not there, but you have to do as early as possible.
Next is, what is the maximum time allowed for movement of goods after raising? Again, we have already discussed that you can generate the eWaybill after generating the invoice, and presently there is no time limit for that. We are in rural area, so our internet connection gets disconnected. What will be the solution for this problem?
I
No,
think
yeah.
they are raising a question. That's it. I think given a rural area, the connectivity, interconnectivity is so well connected nowadays, and I don't think anyone has internet connectivity problem in rural areas nowadays.
So even if it is there, you can generate a little bit later the invoice, not necessarily that immediately. You can wait and generate a next, even same day evening or a next day also you can generate when the internet comes.
The next question is, can we generate eWaybill and e-invoice in a single shot?
Yes, it is possible. Already we have explained this. Next.
Can you show how to prepare e-invoice using JEPFON tool? So this you can go to the
Go to the portal.
website.
Yeah, please go to the portal. There is a video available. Using that, you can understand the whole process, how it can be generated.
So will the invoice be digitally signed? Do we have to register this particular invoice? Digital signature. So we have already explained that invoice will be digitally signed by the portal. So you don't have to digitally sign it. Instead, the IRP itself or the invoice registration portal itself will digitally sign your invoice, and it will be available for download so that you can verify, anybody can verify the invoice based on this digital signature. How we can confirm that we are eligible for e-invoice billing or not? This you can check in the portal. We have a state e-enablement status. You can enter your GSTN and see whether you are eligible for e-invoicing. Next question is, my last year and preceding last year turnover is around 9 crores. So if I register my firm in IRP before 1st August, then is it mandatory for me to generate e-invoice? So this already we have clarified that if you are eligible, you can start generating the e-invoice. If turnover has crossed.
Question again. You can skip it again. 10 crore. Same question.
What about the export of services? Already this also we have explained. E-invoices need to be generated on self-invoices.
No. Self-invoices, e-invoice need not have to be generated. That is, supplier and buyer same GST is not allowed. System will not take. Next.
Next is, do we need to submit
The
Japan?
whole concept one should understand, the whole e-invoicing is only for business to business. They should have a registration number from the supplier and also recipient. That is the basic concept. And there is no difference between, the only difference is the e-invoice in the physical copy. You are registering the physical copy on the e-invoice portal. When the government is going to authenticate that particular data with the IRN, with the QR code and with the e-signature. Otherwise, there is no other alterations at all. Please remember, whatever the business practices you people are doing, as of now, the same thing is applicable for this also. Only you are registering the invoice on the invoice portal for only for business to business transaction, for the tax invoices and bill of supply, and also for credit notes and debit notes and for exports. All other transactions out of the e-invoicing provisions. And the mandately who have turnover more than 5 crore and above from August 1st with the previous financial years, they all have to generate the e-invoices. That one should remember. Yes, ma'am.
So I think we can take another 2-3 questions and we can stop here.
Do you need to submit a Japan generated invoice to our buyer, or we can submit our usual copy of invoice? No, you have to submit your e-invoice generated from the portal or in your system where QR code is there. That will prove that e-invoice has been generated. But if you give a physical copy, it will not have a QR code. So the buyer may not accept it. So ideally, with your physical copy, you give the invoice generated from the portal, or if you are generated from your ERP system with a QR code, that also can be given. Yes, Sunita, you want to go to the next, this one?
So we'll take 1 or 2 and that will stop it.
Yeah.
Which invoices to be issued to the customer? Okay, this is done. Next is, we sold cardamom in auction by spices. So the e-waybill and e-invoice have different amount. What to do?
I don't know how that will come in a different amount. Basically, invoice and e-waybill, if unless otherwise the quantity and things are different, they are not supposed to have a different amount.
Oh.
Sir, I have some few questions that I have posted on to that I have taken down. I think that little of interest. Shall I read out them, sir?
Please, please.
Yeah. One is, if the e-commerce operator is not generating the e-invoices on behalf of the e-commerce seller, will the seller be penalized for e-invoice non-compliance? Once again, here the question, it's once again, I want to make it very clear. If it's only for business to business transaction, you have to raise the e-invoices. For a non-compliance, what are the provisions of penalty that is going to be applied? The next question, in the case of exports, we will get shipping bill. That already, that question has been answered. Third one, if the invoice is created with shipping bill details, the shipping bill details are not auto-copied GST 1. We are amending the invoice in GST with shipping bill details for the auto refund of the export duty paid. Is this the recommended approach? Yeah, that's the only the recommended approach. Anything you can amend at the GST 1. What is the maximal time limit within which we need to generate e-invoices? We are unable to generate them in real time. In fact, that has already been answered. So you can generate after any number of days after that particular day of conclusion. But the time limit will go around 7 days. We want to be put in place shortly. Even before that, as a practicality, I would like to suggest if the movement of goods is there with the e-invoice, it's better to generate e-invoice in a real-time basis. Next one, we notice that the e-invoices generated for SEZ parties are not reflected on GST1 portal. Is there any specific reason for the same? This, I think you have to take it up with the GST, put up a ticket to the GST. I think they'll get back to you. Otherwise, if any time, if we can walk on to our help desk, we'll see to that what we can do on that. Next question, how long it will take to get the e-invoices auto-populated in the GST form? In some cases, it gets reflected the next day. In some other cases, it takes more than 2 days. Could you please clarify this? Even for this also, you can raise a ticket on the GST portal, put into the e-invoice details. I think they will get back on that. Otherwise, you can please come and visit our help desk. What best solutions we can give it, we can work on that. So this is what the questions which I had taken to answer for the useful of everybody. Then another thing, annual aggregate turnover. I'll tell you once again, you please remember it includes taxable, it includes non-GST, it includes exempted, and also includes the taxes GST collected also. Okay. Over to you, sir.
I think we have covered more than 100 questions what they have raised, and commonly raised question also we have answered. Sunita, over to you to
Yes.
close it.
So I think most of your questions must have got answered through this session. And I thank all the participants for joining this session. We'll be conducting some more sessions on the same lines in coming days. I thank Dr. B.V. Murali Krishna for attending this session and giving us answering all the questions. I also thank Mr. P.B. Bhatt for answering these questions. Thank you one and all. Thank you, sir.
And thank you all the stakeholders, consultants, and the taxpayers associations who came in large numbers and participated. As NIC team suggested, certainly we will have some more sessions. Something they would like to do it in Hindi. In sometimes we will also do it in Kannada, so that it will in other languages wherever is possible. We'll see to that. We'll communicate to all the stakeholders, and we'll see to that compliance happens. And let us be a win-win solution for everybody. Thank you, NIC team. Thank you, Mr. P.V. Bhatt, Sunita, Madam, and also Suresh Mehti. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. We'll be closing the session now.